here. And so what we're doing for the students at home is we're just kind of reliving a few moments about the election. And I know this isn't a political class, so I'll try not to be political one way or the other on this, just kind of show you what the results were and what happened. And in political science, like I said, I mean, you live for an election like this. We literally, we only have an election once every 4 years, and every 4 years the content changes just for that one semester. It's a unique experience in political science to have an election year, and it is so much fun. And the students learn a lot simply by watching and observing. If you watched last night, if you followed the Electoral College, you're going to know a lot about our U.S. history. You can't go through U.S. history and not understand how presidents are elected, because we really mark time in U.S. history by different presidents and what they did and what they accomplished. So this whole process of the election, plays into U.S. history big time, and also plays a big time um, into world history, because the whole world is waking up going, who won? and and trust me, around the world, there's some countries where Mr. Trump's very popular. I think like Saudi Arabia, for example, be a good thing. Russia, some others, but there's other places where he's not, and so they have a preference too, and so they're following this around the world, because the leader of the United States is a very important leader in world history. So I equate it, keep telling you, it's like all of a sudden there's a new emperor. We're going to talk about emperors today, and we'll go through one year where they had 5 emperors in one year, right? I mean, everybody in the whole Mediterranean world, in the whole Roman Empire, really wanted to know who was emperor and what policies and what things they would do differently. And so this is one of those kind of moments. So let's go ahead and show you the map. And this is the map as of right now. In fact, I'll refresh it. I'm using the New York Times here simply because it's really a big one. You can kind of see it on the screen there. Let's see if it comes in. There it is. Okay, so they just barely called Wisconsin within the last 10 or 15 minutes. If you went to bed last night early, President Trump had about 100, 200,000 vote lead there. But so many millions of ballots were cast absentee because of the coronavirus. And before I forget, look at this, 70 million votes already counted, and they got a lot more to count. 67 million. This is already the biggest election in American history. More votes cast than at any other time. It looks like Biden's won the popular vote already with over 50.2% to 48.1%. That's actually really close. When you look at elections through history, if you're within, a big win would be somebody getting 51%, like Obama did twice, Eisenhower twice. Those are the only presidents that did it twice in 60 years. So 50.2 and 48.1. That's really tight, but within kind of what we normally see. But it really comes down then to how many states you win and the states that are still outstanding. And so let's go through one at a time and show you where Mr. Trump has a chance to still win. It's not over yet. The counting is still going on. In Georgia, look how close it is. 50.2%, isn't that funny? That same number up there. 50.2% to 48.5. Right, they're still counting, and right now they're counting urban areas around Atlanta, because the bigger cities it takes longer to count because there's just so many more people. And Biden's getting closer and closer and closer. He may close that gap. Boy, that's close to a lot. That close 10,000 votes just in the last 2 hours. He may have a chance, and Biden will, to take it. I don't think so. So you can probably give Georgia to President Trump. North Carolina, again, very close, but it's 95% of the votes in. Again, North Carolina, there's a chance for Biden to win North Carolina, but I doubt it. So if it were me just telling you, I would say paint those 2 red, okay? Give them to Trump. And that would give him an extra, let's look at it, okay, 31 electoral votes. So suddenly add 31 to there, right? So he's getting close, right? He only needs to win. Like Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania is really the wild card. And it looks like Biden is behind by about 400,000, but he was behind about 600,000 early this morning. So he's made up a lot of ground, and most of the votes to come in are around the Philadelphia area where the big population center is. And Biden's winning in those counties 70-30. It's going to be tight. It could go either way. It's on a knife's edge. But let's just pretend and give it to Trump. Okay? Let's just say right now he's the leader. Let's give it to him. So let's give him this one, and this one. Well, he's getting really close to the magic number 270. But what happened to him was this thing in Arizona. Nobody saw this coming. Arizona hasn't voted for a Democrat since 1960. Like, this is Republican country. It's changed. It changed a lot over the last 4 years. And right now, Biden is actually comfortably ahead, 51% to 47. So then you move to the next state, another one that the Trump people thought they would win, and that's Nevada. Well, they won all the rural areas, but they didn't do so well up in Reno area. And most of the voters, most of the state, the whole population is in Las Vegas area. That's called Clark County. And right now, look how close it is, 49.3 to 48.7. But most of the votes are still down here in this area. So it looks like Biden's going to pull that out. So if that happens, these two states were surprises, and they were the big surprises of the night. And it could be that the whole presidency is going to be decided in Las Vegas. And they won't tell us what's going on there until tomorrow afternoon. So we won't know. Arizona, we'll know that sooner. The one that just came in was this one here. The Wisconsin is like big for Biden. And then we go, a big win. And it's only by a few thousand votes. You can see that it's really close. It's like within, oh man, what is that? Like 21,000 votes. Trump won it by about 21,000 4 years ago. Now Biden may win it by about the same number. That's how close that state is. But this then becomes the next major prize for Biden. He's leading, and he's leading by about 37,000 votes, with a lot of votes to come in the urban area around Detroit and Flint and so on. So it looks like he's going to win Michigan. And if he does that, if he can win Michigan, hold on to Arizona and Nevada, Mr. Biden is president of the United States and takes the oath of office in January. Like, wow. And we still aren't sure, and we won't be sure, because Pennsylvania will probably still be counting by Friday. They'll still be going through it. And so it's a pretty exciting time, and it's a pretty interesting time. I'm going to do something that's new. I normally wouldn't do this, but it is such an exciting day, and I want you to kind of get a sense of how the data is accumulated and how the numbers run. And it's not meant to be a political statement for or against either candidate. I just want you guys to kind of get an idea of how intricate this is. And everywhere where they're counting, they got poll workers, Democrats and Republicans, watching every vote, making sure it's done right. And I'm really proud of America today. I think we pulled off the biggest election in American history during the biggest pandemic in 100 years. And we did it with professionalism all over the place. And I'm just real proud of the country today, and I'm proud of our democracy. So this is one of those great days. And whether you're a Trump supporter or Biden supporter, you got to be happy that America had its voice and had its say. And so we go back to Athens and we say, way to go, Athens, nice job, right? Giving us this idea. All right, well, so what I'm going to do, and like I said, it's a little different than I normally would. I'm actually going to play you the first 15 minutes of what we did in political science today. And that was watching the CNN people. Well, maybe I can catch it live. Let's see if we can do that. Let's see if we can catch it live right now, because they go through the results every hour. Let's see if we can catch this live.
8.7%. We've got some more states right now. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania. Still, we have not been able to make a projection yet. 20 electoral votes in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, 81% of the estimated vote is in. Trump is ahead by about 435,000 votes, 53.1% to 45. 48.6%. In Georgia right now, 93% of the estimated vote is in. Trump is ahead in Georgia by almost 80,000 votes over Biden, 50.2% to 48.5%. In North Carolina, 95% of the estimated vote is in there. Trump is ahead still by about 76,000 votes, 50.1% to 48.6%. And in the second congressional district in Maine, where there's one electoral vote, 59% of the estimated vote is in. Trump retains the lead, almost 21,000 votes, 51.6% to 44.9%. Let's go over to John King at the Magic Wall. These races are really, really significant right now, John. And there's a lot of uncertainty right now, even though we projected Wisconsin going to Biden.
But that's a giant projection. That's a flip. 10 electoral votes, key to Donald Trump's victory 4 years ago. We flipped those to Biden, which makes, look, counting every last vote today is critical. And in the days ahead in these states, but there are 3 states where you might say it's more important than others, and they are Michigan, they are Arizona, and they are Nevada. Now, why do I say they're more important? Every American's vote counts. But where we are right now in the Electoral College math, if Joe Biden holds his lead there, holds his lead there, and holds his lead there, he can get to 270 electoral votes and be the next president of the United States, even without winning the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Biden campaign thinks it can make up the math there. We'll look more closely at it in a second. The Biden campaign hasn't given up on Georgia. President's leading there. There's still some votes to be counted. But the significance of this day is the counts in Michigan, the counts in Arizona, and the counts in Nevada, because if Biden holds his leads right there, that would be enough to get to the finish line, which is why we're going to watch these states closely. So let's break them down and take a look at them. Again, Pennsylvania, Trump leads. Michigan, Biden leads. Wisconsin, we project to Biden already. So that's one, rebuilding the so-called blue wall that made Donald Trump president. Let's move up Michigan and look, and it's very close here, right? If you just look at these numbers, 49.5, 48.8, so round it up, 50 to 49. 37,350 votes. So the Trump campaign says, they think they can come back here. He needs about 55%, somewhere ballpark there of what's left. The issue is where we know they are. And again, just want to come in here. You see by circles here is population. And the bulk of the votes, we are told by the Secretary of State, Wayne County, heavily Democratic, Joe Biden getting 67% of the vote. So we'll count them. Sometimes you're surprised, but if you have a lot of votes here to count, history tells us they will be predominantly Democratic votes, which is why the Biden campaign is confident about its math there, but also why it's critical that we advance that math throughout the day. Other places we're told that these votes are, we're told Genesee County, which is Flint, Michigan. This one's relatively close, 50 to 48. So you watch those votes come in. That's one of the places where they're going to come. Another place we know we have some down here in Kalamazoo, 54 to 44 there. So Joe Biden can expect, again, you have to count the votes to see if the trends continue. But the trends, especially in these mail-in ballots, have been Democratic. So you watch that come up. And just one more place, we know there are some votes still to be counted in Kent County. That's Grand Rapids here. You see the red there, and your first reflex would be president might pick up some votes here, and that's possible. But we do know the votes yet to be counted are right here in the city of Grand Rapids, not in the suburbs around it. The suburbs tend to be more Republican, especially as you move out away from the city. In the city itself, the vote there has been Democratic so far, but there's possibility we'll watch the votes. But again, significant when you come back out here that Biden has that lead, because if Michigan holds, and the Secretary of State was on our air a bit earlier, she says they hope to make good progress today. So we should have a very good sense of Michigan in the hours ahead. So if those hold and those 16 go to Biden, then you're coming out here, Wolf. This would be a takeaway like Wisconsin from the Trump 2016 map. If you can get if you can get Arizona, in another flip, then you're adding to the Biden count. 93,518 votes, 51 to 48 if you round up. Again, the bulk of the votes in this state, Maricopa County, Phoenix and the suburbs around it. You just look at the math. Joe Biden's getting 52 to 46 for the president. This is where most of the votes are missing, still to be counted here. They're still out 86%. So you wait on this one. Again, Trump campaign says they think they can come back. We'll watch that play out. And then you move lastly over to Nevada. It'd be really interesting to see if we get more votes out of Nevada today, because again, that looks very close, and it is very close, 7,647 votes. But we know, more than 7 in 10 votes in any race in Nevada come here, Clark County, as much as 72, 73% of the vote will come out of here. Number 2, we know it is trending Joe Biden's way right now, 53 to 45. And so as they count the votes in Clark County, it'd be really fascinating to see by the end of the day, do we get another chunk of votes out of Clark County that tells us, can the president narrow that lead, or does Joe Biden stretch it out? Because again, I'll just walk over here and we'll go through this map. Here's where we are, 237 to 213, 270 is the finish line. Can somebody make it to the finish line today? The way for Biden would be if you do Michigan. There it is. There it is. We're still waiting on Alaska. The president leads right now. It's not done. It's not done. I know Democrats get mad when you do this. It's hypothetical. President leads there and there. We believe, I think you were just talking about, the president has a lead in Maine's 2nd Congressional District. So for the sake of argument, if it's light, you see the dark reds. Those we're projecting for the president. The light reds, we're just leaning that way for the sake of the hypothetical. Even if the president gets Maine 2, North Carolina, Georgia, and Alaska, that would get him to 248. And if Biden can hold here, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, that's why it's so important, because we're going to have a fight. Right now, the president is leading. We're going to have a fight for Pennsylvania. If it goes blue, Joe Biden would pad it. But even if the president held it, that's what is so significant about the counts in Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada. Because even if the president held Pennsylvania, Biden campaign thinks they're going to count the rest of those votes. Steep hill, have to win about 2/3 of them. Biden campaign thinks they can pull off the math in Pennsylvania. But as you can see right here, they don't need it. If they hold Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, they don't need it. We'll count them all.
They're pretty confident that that is very much doable as far as the Biden folks, if you listen to what they're saying.
Right. Both campaigns, they understand, and they've been in touch overnight with what's out. Right. What is yet to be counted in these places? Most of what has yet to be counted, not all, but most of what is yet to be counted is the mail-in ballots. And in most places around the country, the mail-in ballots were disproportionately Democratic. We know Biden voters were more likely to vote by mail. Republican voters were more likely to show up on Election Day. Again, you want to just check every now and then. There's you get a surprise. But if you look at the publicly available data, plus the current election returns in all of the places where you have a big amount of votes out, big amount of votes still to be counted today, Biden's leading in most of those places. So the math tells you they're comfortable, but we have to finish it.
And they're talking, the Trump folks, the Trump campaign, of raising some potential legal challenges in Pennsylvania and Michigan.
Right. I'm going to switch maps and come back over here. And we expect to see them. They also said they would do a recount in Wisconsin. Now, we'll see. Look, what people say and what they do, I don't mean any offense here. This happens in all campaigns. This is a very emotional day. This is a very emotional day. Late last night, the Trump campaign had reason to be optimistic. The overnight counts, especially Michigan, Wisconsin, and out in the West, have moved away from them. It's an emotional time, so no matter who you support, you should respect the emotions of the other side. But the Trump campaign, number one, they have officials going up to Pennsylvania today. The president's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, Corey Lewandowski, his former campaign manager back 16, familiar faces. They're going to Philadelphia today. They claim that there's vote rigging going on in here. Local Republicans are on the scene. Our correspondents are on the scene. Philadelphia has cameras in the room where they're counting the votes. So we'll listen to see what the Trump people say. They say there's something nefarious happening there. There's zero evidence of that right now. Again, we'll listen to what they say. They say out here that they're sorry about that. They say out here that they're already going to ask for a recount in Wisconsin. That is their right. We'll see what happens if they actually follow through with that. But Wolf, Governor Scott Walker, loyal Republican, he has tweeted a couple of times saying that that's a steep hill. If you look at the margin, right? I've been through a lot of elections. Very rare is it that in any recount you overturn a 20,000 vote margin. Scott Walker tweeting a couple of recounts in his experience, 300 votes changed in one, 100 and something votes changed in another. So again, it's within their rights. And as we try to respect the count, we should also respect everybody's right to say, we're going to look at this, we're going to scrub this, we're going to look at state law, can we get a recount? We should watch all that play out. But I've been doing this a long time. That's a very hard number to overcome. And so we'll watch it play out. Again, the Trump campaign today is spending a lot of time talking to their local people on the ground, spending a lot of time talking to their lawyers from both sides. Don't believe everything you hear today. There's a lot of emotions in play. We'll watch how it plays out.
Pennsylvania right now. Trump has a significant lead in Pennsylvania right now. Potentially, if you listen to the Biden campaign folks, they think they have a real chance of winning Pennsylvania. What do you think? How does that happen?
How does that happen? Is again, you look at this. Now, remember, just if we rewound the tape late last night, there were times when that leads 424,000 now and change. There were times last night when it was above 600,000. So there has been a trend toward Joe Biden. Can you get enough? When you're at 82%, and in most elections, you would look at the 82%, 424,000 votes and say, that's too steep of a hill. But remember how different this election is, right? But people voted three different ways. Election day turnout, President Trump, whether you like him or not, give him credit. The Trump rallies around the country, in Pennsylvania, in North Carolina, elsewhere, there's no question. The president's frenetic travel at the end turned out Republican votes. That's one way people voted. The other way was in-person early voting. People waited in long lines. You saw the pictures, remarkable for a long period of time. And then people voted by mail. We know Democrats disproportionately voted by mail. So again, I'm going to come back to Philadelphia, which is a place where we know the Trump campaign is going to complain today. We're only at 64% of the vote. So you're looking at that lead. It's a huge lead, but you've got almost 40%, about a third of the vote to be counted in Philadelphia. You just look at this right now. There's no guarantee it holds up this way, but if Joe Biden's winning 78% of the vote and you've still got, 30+% to count, right? You still have a third of it to count. There's reason tells you Joe Biden's going to pick up some more votes here in Philadelphia. If you move over here, Montgomery County, one of the suburbs in the call or around Philadelphia, we're at 88%. So you got 10, 12% of the vote still to come in. Joe Biden's winning 6 out of 10 votes there in Montgomery County. So there's more votes potentially if they continue at the trend we see them, or maybe even more so because of the disproportionate Democratic mail-in balloting. And again, Chester County, this one's a little closer, but still ballots to be counted. So if you pull this out and you look at the number, one more out here, another Democratic county, there are some Trump counties where they're going to count these ballots too, the mail-in ballots. So it's possible the president picks up some votes in some places. We'll see. Are those Trump voters who voted by mail? Are they Democrats in Republican places who voted by mail? We'll know more. Pennsylvania is moving through this, but you got to do more in Allegheny County as well. So you look at the big number, now down to 403,000. It's moving. They're counting votes even during this conversation. 403. Our math is that Joe Biden in the ballpark has to win about 2/3 of what's left to be counted. We'll see. We'll know a lot more. They're trying to move fast in Pennsylvania.
They think there may be 1 million votes still outstanding.
Yeah.
And so they're looking very closely at that. We'll see what happens in Pennsylvania. Jake, back to you.
All right. On the subject of Pennsylvania, let's talk now with Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro.
Okay, so we'll just escape right here. And that was a really good summary. That was about as good as it gets. And I love this John King because he was neutral, right? He didn't take one side or the other. He just said, we got to count. And in America, the beauty of it is we have very, very honest people in every state whose job it is to count. And then there's observers from both sides and the news media too, to see if everything's done properly and fairly. And so you can have a lot of confidence in the vote. And so, yeah, I don't know. This is kind of one of those days where you just kind of stop and watch history instead of talking about, maybe the first and second triumvirate, whatever, that's interesting history, right? I mean, I love that Roman history, but sometimes you're living it. And you are living in very historic times. The win of Trump 4 years ago was earth-shattering. He won in the most unlikely way. And but before that was Obama winning back-to-back. And so the last literally 4 elections, 2 from Obama, 1 from Trump, 1 from Biden, if Biden holds on to win, have been truly historic. And it's going to change the direction of the country dramatically. The truth of the matter is that if Biden wins, we're going one direction, which is the direction that Obama and his team had outlined for the country before it was interrupted in a way by President Trump, who wants to take it a very different way. And there's a lot, look, this country is split right down the middle. Well, not quite down the middle. Biden is winning in the popular vote. I think he's got like 3 million more popular votes. We can find out for sure. Let's just go ahead before I just say he's got 70 million already, 67 here. And look, when we get to a state like California, they got 25% left to count, and they're already looking at 10 million. So there's 3 or 4 million, and they're breaking 65-32 for Biden. So Biden will probably win the popular vote by about 6 million votes, because in states like Illinois, it's the same story. Not quite so different, but New York, it's 58-40, and they have 84% counted. So we're not done counting at all in these states. It's just that in a state like California, Biden's already got such a lead that no matter how many more votes there are to count, it's mathematically impossible for Trump to catch up there. But it's the same thing in Florida, Texas. Texas is a great example. Biden thought he could get Texas. No, it's 52-46 right there. And they've 96% counted. Wow, that's 11 million, over 11 million people voted just in the state of Texas, which is amazing. Utah, went for President Trump, 58-38. And we had over 1 million votes, which is pretty incredible for Utah. And we're still got more to count. So we'll probably go to, wow, we might have another couple of million votes in there. So that's kind of how it works. And look, I'm just hesitating. Why don't we do this really fast? Let's take a look at your next assignment, because it's kind of a unique one. And so let's spend some time worrying about that. And let's go ahead and look at this. Oh, I haven't posted it. It's coming Wednesday. That's right. It's coming tomorrow, or today, isn't it? This afternoon. Here's what this one's going to be about. Okay, so you ready? Next assignment. I thought I'd created it already. I created the poli-sci one. I forgot that yours is still ready to go. I think it's ready to post. I think I got it half done. But here's the assignment. What we're going to do is have you, instead of answering a bunch of questions, we're going to have you do a short research paper. All right, now it's going to be on either the first or the second triumvirate. Now you get to pick which triumvirate do you want to talk about. Now, when I post the instructions, it'll be pretty straightforward and pretty simple. And it'll basically say this, it'll go, okay, so pick the one you find most interesting, right? The first triumvirate, with Crassus, Pompey, and Julius Caesar, or Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus. But, of course, that's where Cleopatra comes into play. Well, no, she was involved with both of them, wasn't she? Okay, so pick one and then research it, go online, study it out, figure out what happened, and tell me the story of the three generals, how they got into power, what led them together, and then how it broke apart into civil war and who won. So you're basically going to tell me the story of either the first or the second triumvirate. And I don't care which one you do, but you'll need to research that by looking at Wikipedia, maybe start there. That would be, you just type in first triumvirate and it'll come right up, second triumvirate. Or other pages that come up in your Google search. But I want a pretty substantial report going through that entire piece of history and write it as an historical narrative, right? So I think won't be a hard assignment, but it'll be a longer essay than you've done before. It's going to be 1,000 words minimum, right? You don't feel too oppressed, because my political science, they have to do 2,000 words, okay? For both, they would have to do both of them at 2,000 words each. So you guys are getting off, easier, which is fine. But I think you can tell the story of the first or the second triumvirate in 1,000 words. And so that will be to replace this study guide here. So we won't have a normal study guide. We'll have this research paper, and we need to practice our writing. So that's really kind of what I had planned there. Okay. All right. Raise your hand if you understood what I just said. Okay. All right. Any questions? No questions yet. Let me stop share. Do I see any questions? Everybody ready?